Everett, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Today we are going to discuss diet and caries, also known as cavities. First, we will review your assessment diagnosis form. I see here that when asked the question, compared to the average person, how likely do you think you are to have cavities or other problems with your teeth and or gums, you indicated more than average. You also believe it is very important to keep your teeth and that you somewhat believe that you have control over the condition of your mouth. You would like me to recommend specific products to meet your oral health care needs, and you are willing to make changes in your oral health routine at this time in your life. Are there any changes you would like to make to these statements?
No, those all sound correct.
Great. Now that you have expressed that you are willing to change your oral care routine, let's talk about your risk factors. Earlier, we completed risk factor surveys for both caries risk and periodontal disease risk. Let's go over your caries risk. Your results from the survey questions indicated that you are at high risk for caries. You are at high risk for caries because you have visible cavitation present on your teeth, you have an active white spot lesion on one of your molars, you have received a restoration in the last 3 years, you have deep pits or fissures on your teeth without sealants, you take a medication that causes xerostomia or dry mouth, and you consume frequent cariogenic snacks or beverages between meals. The sealants that you got in your back teeth as a child have worn down and are no longer protecting the grooves in your teeth. Those grooves are now exposed to bacteria and acid and have started to show signs of cavities. You also have a spot on one of your molars that is called an active white spot lesion. These are rough, chalky areas that indicate enamel demineralization. Another risk factor is that you are a snacker and you drink pop. More frequent snacking plays a big role in the caries process, but we will talk about that later. Lastly, you use an albuterol inhaler daily, and this type of medication can cause dry mouth. Saliva helps in fighting cavities, so when you have a reduction in saliva, you are more likely to get cavities. Do you have any questions about your caries risk?
I didn't know sealants could break down. Can I get new sealants even though I'm an adult? Also, I did notice that my mouth is dry a lot. Who knew that could be from my medications?
Yes, adults can get sealants. Sealants are a great way to fight cavities, but they do break down over time. Also, a lot of medications can cause dry mouth. Unfortunately, you are taking one that causes that.
Good to know.
Let's talk about your risk for periodontal disease. The answers from your survey indicate that you are at moderate risk for periodontal disease. The factors contributing to your moderate risk are that you have inflamed gums with bleeding on probing, poor oral hygiene, lack of daily interproximal cleaning, so flossing, and irregular professional cleanings.
I avoided going to the dentist for a while because I didn't have dental insurance.
Let's talk about your daily routine. Tell me everything you do from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night.
I wake up at 7:50 in the morning to take a shower. I get dressed, I put in my contacts. I brush my teeth for about a minute. I feed and take out the dog around 7:45. Then I eat cereal and watch TV. I leave for work at about 7:55 a.m. and then I get to work around 8 o'clock. I work through the morning and have a snack around 9:30 or 10. I drive home for my lunch break around 12:30. I eat a sandwich and chips and watch some TV. I'll also let the dog out again then. Then I drive back to work and work until about 4 or 4:30. Some days I work out for about an hour after work. Other days I just go home and have a snack and watch TV or play video games. Around 7 o'clock, I start making dinner, and then I'll eat around 7:30. I watch TV, play video games, or take the dog on a walk after dinner. And I typically have a snack before I go to bed around 9:30 or 10 o'clock.
You said you work out some days. How many days a week would you say you work out? What exercises do you do?
I typically work out at least 3 times a week. I lift weights by myself or with my trainer, and I have numerous, or the number of times depends on how busy that my work week is.
Great. In order to be considered having a moderate activity level, you need to do 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous cardio per day for 10 or more minutes at a time. Because you are lifting weights and not getting your heart rate up, your activity level is considered light.
Yeah, I don't enjoy doing cardio. I just like lifting weights.
What do you do for an oral hygiene routine?
I brush in the mornings, but sometimes I forget to brush at night. I floss a few times a week, but usually forget to do that too.
Do you have an electric toothbrush or a regular toothbrush? How long do you brush for? What type of floss do you use? Do you use a mouth rinse?
I have an Oral-B electric toothbrush that I don't use that much because I don't have enough time in the mornings. Instead, I use a regular toothbrush for about a minute, and then I floss with a Reach flosser. I don't use mouth rinse, and then I like Crest Pro Health for the taste.
Now it's time to go over your food intake. I'd asked you to fill out a sheet with all the foods you ate in the last 24 hours. You ate cereal for breakfast, a sandwich and chips for lunch, a bacon cheeseburger with tater tots for dinner. You also had a few snacks in between meals, a granola bar, a Dr. Pepper soda, celery and peanut butter, and popcorn. We will assume your typical servings based off of what you ate in the last 24 hours. For each food group, I will tell you the recommended servings compared to the servings you ate. This information is based off of my plate, which we will go over when we talk about your food intake. The amount of servings of each food group varies depending on your age and gender. The recommended amounts that we will discuss will be specific to you. The recommended servings for grains are 4 ounces. You consumed 7.5 ounces. So you can see that here. This means that you have almost doubled the recommended amount of servings. The recommended servings for fruits are 2 cups. You did not consume any fruit during that 24-hour period.
I'm not really a fruit person, so I don't eat much of them.
The recommended servings for vegetables is 3 cups. You ate 2 cups. You almost ate the full recommended amount of servings. Your recommended servings of proteins is 6.5 ounces. You consumed 6 ounces. You were just under the recommended amount. The recommended servings of dairy is 3 cups, and you consumed that exact amount. The recommended servings of oils is 7 teaspoons, and you consume 10.5 teaspoons. This category should be limited. You were over the recommended amounts of grains and oils, under the recommended amounts in fruits, vegetables, and protein, and you were right on point with dairy servings. Based off of what we went over with your food intake, do you have any goals?
I need to try and eat more fruits and vegetables. I don't like fruit, but it might be tolerable if I eat it with cereal or something that I do like. I think that I eat enough dairy and proteins. I don't think I need to change anything with those categories. I might be eating excessive grains, so I'll try and cut back or just make sure that I'm eating a healthier grain. And I'm a little concerned about the amount of oils that I consume.
We can talk about ways you can monitor your servings and also go over some tips of proper nutrition. My Plate is a great resource to use when learning about nutrition, serving sizes, and activity. The website has tools that offer advice on living an active lifestyle and making better food choices. There's also a super tracker where you can track your diet and physical activity. The website offers a large amount of information, so today we will just talk about the food groups and portions. So if you Google My Plate, a lot of options come up. I have found that the best website to go to is www.choosemyplate.gov. From there, you can click My Plate. Then it gives you the option to click on different foods. So on the side here, the food groups listed are fruits, vegetables, grains, protein foods, dairies, and oils. Once you click in a category, it can tell you how much you should be eating, and it also tells you what servings equal. So for example, 16 seedless grapes equals about a cup of fruit. Sometimes it's hard to determine things, how much a serving is, so that's a good tool to go back to when you are looking for that. Tracking and modifying your diet can be a difficult task, but I think My Plate makes it simple. They also have an app through Livestrong that allows you to track your food and exercise on your smartphone. We have talked a lot about food. Do you understand why we talk about food intake and caries together?
I know that sugary foods can give you cavities, but I'm not sure why.
We will talk about the caries process and all the factors that come into play when cavities begin to occur. Let's begin with the primary factors in the decay process. In order for a cavity to form, you need 4 things. You need plaque biofilm, or bacteria, fermentable carbohydrates, you need a susceptible tooth, and you need time. So plaque biofilm is bacteria that builds up on our teeth all day and night. Developing plaque biofilm is unavoidable and happens to everyone. The bacteria eat the sugars that we consume and create acid as a byproduct. The acid breaks down the tooth, also called demineralization, and a cavity starts to form. Common cavity-causing bacteria are Streptococcus mutans and Lactobacilli. In order for the bacteria to produce acid, they need to consume a fermentable carbohydrate. The most cariogenic, or cavity-causing, sugars are simple sugars like mono and disaccharides. Most of these sugars end in OSE, or OS. Because the sugar molecule size is small, the bacteria can metabolize them faster. So complex carbohydrates, also known as polysaccharides, are less cariogenic than simple carbohydrates, but they can still cause cavities. It takes more time for the bacteria to break down the larger molecules, so they are slightly less likely to create decay. All teeth can be susceptible to caries. Some are more vulnerable to decay because of the tooth structure itself, the shape, so pits and grooves, and the position, so overlapping and crowding. Lastly, time. The longer bacteria stays on teeth, the more likely they are to produce acid to demineralize the tooth. More importantly, if the oral cavity is repeatedly attacked, the structures are more likely to break down. Stephen's curve demonstrates this idea. So here is a picture of Stephen's curve. It shows the pH of the oral cavity every time you eat. So here, when you eat breakfast, the pH of your mouth goes from alkaline, so basic, to acidic. And if it goes below the critical pH of 5.5, then that leads to decay. And so once the pH of the oral cavity goes below that pH, it's acidic enough to cause the tooth to demineralize. Recovery from this acidity takes 20 minutes. This occurs every time you eat or drink, or when you snack on sugary beverages for long periods of times, the mouth is acidic for longer. So this is a graph that kind of shows that. So if you eat breakfast, it goes below the critical pH. That takes 20 minutes to go up. You have lunch, it goes back down. 20 minutes to go up. I mean, you just have a pop. So anytime you eat, it goes all the way down below the critical pH. And here's an example if you're snacking. So it goes below the critical pH for a longer amount of time because you keep eating it. And then it goes up slowly. So this means that you're exposing the teeth to acid for a longer amount of time. If you eat or drink multiple times a day, then you lengthen the exposure time of acid attacks. So based off your food intake, can you identify any fermentable carbohydrates that you consumed? So off of this one.
Yes, I see that I had a granola bar, 2 pops between meals. Yeah,
Okay.
that looks like it.
So the form of food also plays a role. Solid foods tend to get stuck in the teeth. The longer you have food in your mouth, the longer the teeth are exposed to acid. Liquid foods are easily cleared from the oral cavity, so they are less cariogenic. I calculated the number of minutes that your teeth are exposed during the 24-hour period. So you had 3 forms of liquid sugars, and so you multiply that by the 20 minutes it takes to recover, and you get 60 minutes of total acid production time with liquids. So I also did it for your solid forms of sugar, and you had 6 solid forms of sugar throughout the day. You multiply that by 40-minute time of recovery, and that equals 240 minutes of total acid production. When you add those together, you get 300 minutes of the time that your tooth is exposed to acid. And so that is a lot of time for acid to break down your teeth. There are some foods that can help return the pH of the oral cavity to normal. Protein and fats raise the pH level and actually fight demineralization. Saliva also assists in remineralization, so crunchy and sour foods, which induce salivary production, can help fight cavities. There are other ways that we can try to control decay. Higher saliva production helps fight decay. This is something that you should be aware of due to your medication that causes dry mouth. It's important that you drink water throughout the day so that you can clear your mouth of acid. Sealants help keep bacteria and acid out of the pits and the grooves of your teeth. I suggest that you get some sealants treatment planned by the dentist today. You should also be aware of fluoride. Fluoride helps remineralize the teeth, and you can get it systemically or topically. You live in a fluoridated community, so you should already have systemic fluoride in your drinking water. And it's important that you use toothpaste with fluoride so that you receive professional fluoride treatments at your professional dental appointments. In order to control the amount of plaque biofilm, you need to make sure that you are adequately cleaning your teeth. I suggest that you use your Oral-B toothbrush instead of your manual toothbrush. This will assist in fighting acid attacks. I also suggest that you incorporate your reach flosser into your routine or think about using a water flosser when you shower. It's important to remove the bacteria from in between your teeth. It's also helpful to use antimicrobial fluoride rinse before bed. This will assist in fighting acid attacks, and it's essential to brush and floss twice a day in order to reduce the amount of plaque biofilm buildup. Lastly, try to be aware of your fermentable carbohydrate intake. Try to decrease the frequency of eating to avoid lowering the pH of the oral cavity, and also try to consume carbohydrates with your meals. Because you may be experiencing dry mouth, in addition to drinking more water, you could also chew gum or eat mints with xylitol. Xylitol is a natural sugar that actually fights cavities. It will also help stimulate your salivary glands to produce more saliva. If you are unable to brush or floss after eating, you can always do a quick rinse with water. This isn't the best remedy to decrease acid, but it's better than doing nothing. After this conversation, do you have any changes or goals that you would like to make to your oral hygiene or diet?
Yes, I would like to try to eat more fruit and vegetables and to limit my carbohydrates and oils. Now that I understand the frequency and Stevens curve, I'll try not to snack as often. And then I'll try using my Oral-B toothbrush twice a day and then remembering to floss.
Do you have any questions for me, or would you like me to clarify anything?
No, I think this all makes sense.
Great. Have a great day, and I will see you at your next cleaning.